listening, the idea of listening to your body is completely moot if you have no idea what you're listening for. Hi, welcome back. My boyfriend said that this looked cool, showing you like the background. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot and see if anybody cares. In one of my last videos that I filmed where I'm like just kind of sitting on my couch talking to you about things that have been on my mind, I touched on the fact that we as people are not truth-seeking creatures. We are comfort-seeking creatures very much. And that seemed to really resonate with a lot of you. So I kind of wanted to follow up on that. I think something that's very interesting once you learn it is how unreliable our brains actually are. Like if you've ever seen anything about memory and how unreliable it is, like our brains are so used to creating a story, creating a narrative based on like pattern recognition. And that's something that has been extremely useful, obviously, to like humans and our survival, like recognizing patterns. For instance, like, I don't know, back in the day, like hunter-gatherers, you see like one person go off into the woods or something and they don't come back, right? And then maybe you see two people go off into the woods to hunt and they don't come back. Maybe 3 or 4 people go off into the woods to hunt and they come back, or 3 of them come back with food and, you know, they're bloodied and hurt, but like they came back and they've got food. So we start to recognize like, okay, maybe we don't hunt alone. We hunt in packs. I don't know, that's like a weird example, but patterns were part of like putting those patterns together, putting those little like clues together were part of like what helped us to survive and evolve as a species. Another kind of interesting example, or another maybe more like relatable example, is OCD. I've touched a few times on my OCD. I don't know how much I've gone like super into depth with it, and I wanted to kind of like talk to you about it a little bit more. But for example, like I feel like a lot of people are at least aware of the fact that like a lot of OCD symptoms come from like a lack of control, a lack of feeling control, and it provides a sense of comfort and control to the person with OCD. So for example, like I feel like one of the symptoms that I encountered when I was younger was having to not step on a crack in the sidewalk. I feel like that's one that I've heard from a lot of people, where you step like over it. You have to step like, I felt like I had to step in the middle of the sidewalk, like the slab of concrete or whatever it was. Another one that I have currently is I live on the 4th floor and I have a pretty sedentary job. I'm sitting a lot. So I don't really take our elevator. I pretty much always take the stairs. And I will take the stairs 2 at a time and I count them. I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next stair, I'll start with my opposite foot. So if I started one stair with my right foot, then I'll start the next stair with my left foot. And then I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For me, the way that I interpret that one is that it's a symptom of me trying to have control over asymmetry in my body. Like muscles are different sizes and things like that. And so I want to make sure that I am working certain muscles the same amount. I'm trying to keep it as symmetrical as possible. Symmetry is a big one for me. I want to thank NoCD for sponsoring this video today. For those of you who don't know, I have been dealing with OCD for basically my entire life. In fact, the more I think about it, the further and further back it goes. I kept seeing ads for NoCD like on YouTube and like just kind of like here and there hearing it. And like I loved the branding. NoCD is like amazing. And so it just kind of like piqued my interest. And I always assumed that I had OCD like pretty heavily. I have a disgust factor, especially when it comes to dishes. Cleaning dishes. I always had to have like control over the cleaning of dishes, and that had always been like a really big thing and the easiest thing for me to kind of like pinpoint as OCD. So I always figured that I had it. It also like runs in my family. It was probably some of the most severe and more obvious that led to me not being able to eat or drink at friends' houses, that led to me leaving restaurants before even getting food. or having to stop eating in the middle of eating at a restaurant, which was very, very difficult for especially the people around me. For anyone who doesn't understand, I fully did not understand OCD. I really thought like, oh, it's like, yeah, I'm like a little OCD about like the way that I clean my dishes. But what I didn't realize is how deeply it affects every single aspect of my life. Checking to provide comfort for anxious thoughts, intrusive thoughts, checking the stove, checking the door multiple times, having to touch the lock to make sure that I'm telling myself that the door is locked without just looking at it. That's just to name a few. I really, really can't express to you how deep it goes. I'd also, prefer to keep some things to myself. I think the biggest thing that it made so incredibly difficult was the amount of anxiety that it caused me. It was something that I was it was always on my mind, always on my mind. I was constantly thinking about it, constantly. It ruled my life. There wasn't a single decision that I was making, a single action that I was going throughout my day without being controlled by my OCD symptoms. For those of you who don't know, I did try CBT therapy for about 8 months before I started working with NoCD, and the first 4 months were fine. I felt like I was getting a little bit of something from it, but the last 4 months were horrible. I felt a severe increase in my OCD symptoms. My anxiety was like out of control. And I just knew something wasn't right. And then I happened to see some ads for NoCD on YouTube. And through those ads, I learned that traditional cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what I was doing, can actually make OCD symptoms worse. And I was like, oh, that must be what's going on. That's why I'm feeling so horrible right now. So I decided to reach out. I will say they made it so incredibly simple. I set up like a 15-minute call. They helped me set up my first appointment. Luckily, it was covered by my insurance. They work with like a majority of major insurance companies. So they helped me set up my first appointment, which was fine. It wasn't like a personality match. And immediately after the appointment, I received a questionnaire basically, saying like, how did it go? Was it a good fit? And I was kind of like, it wasn't the best fit. And immediately was contacted by someone to help me find a better fit. And, I was looking for someone that was a little bit closer to me in age, and they set me up with the person that I'm working with now. And I literally cannot imagine working with anyone else. Like, she has been so incredible. And the experience has been amazing. Like, it was a perfect fit. The perfect fit. I realized once I started therapy specifically for OCD, how I didn't really know what OCD was. Like, I didn't know. I had no idea what it really was. And I just didn't realize how deep it was in me. I didn't really know what to expect from ERP, and it still surprises me every single day. I was shocked by how I was able to connect with emotions that I had suppressed my entire life. And what it has done to show me that I am physically capable of handling those emotions and getting through to the other side. And at the second my first ERP session completed, I remember feeling just like an overwhelming sense of relief. And I'd never felt anything like that. It was completely tangible. It gave me something tangible to feel like I'm not just going to be ruminating in thoughts, which is one of the problems with CBT therapy when it comes to OCD. What's amazing is that you're set up with a licensed professional who is specifically trained in OCD and ERP, which is exposure response prevention. Okay, we're trying to prevent our exposure responses. That is what this is all about. The amount of progress that I have made has been unbelievable. I have felt my anxiety levels come down unbelievably. I've had experiences, for instance, the trip to London when I went with Lisa Eldridge, and then also more recently my trip to Italy. Those would be high anxiety experiences for me in the past, where I would be extremely stressed about eating out at restaurants, the cleanliness of dishes, of silverware. That was not on my mind. On either of those trips, it was completely gone. Now, something that I want to make very, very clear is that you are not trying to cure yourself. OCD is something that you're probably going to live with for the rest of your life. However, what you do learn through ERP is that you are able to experience those difficult emotions that have caused you to create these responses, these exposure responses, so that you are not perpetuating those responses. And you're able to sit in your body and feel those emotions and understand that you are able to get to the other side. They don't last, they dissipate. And I just can't explain to you what that does for your peace of mind. Like, it is massive. So if you resonate with this at all, I would highly recommend going to nocd.com, set up a 15-minute call. Even if you were like me and you're like, maybe I have it, I don't really know. I had no idea. It was so much. It was so much. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I have a little bit. No, girl. No. It's been life-changing, truly. So just like with OCD symptoms, if you are someone who suffers from them, the way that we kind of create our reality to comfort ourselves based on patterns, based on, coming across something that makes us feel uncomfortable and seeking safety. It's something that our brain does. It's not a bad thing. It's not like you are bad for this thing. It's a very human thing. It's a very human response, and it has resulted in our survival as a species, okay? It's been very important. That being said, the world around us has evolved so much, okay? And we haven't really. The people that we are, we're not that much different than our ancestors who were just hunting and gathering in the woods, basically. I've come across so many health gurus or fitness people or I don't know, just influencers in general. There's a lot of content, health content, even mental health, a lot of mental health content on the internet that's just very unreliable because it's kind of forgetting certain people. And it's understandable because even when I make these videos, I'm constantly forgetting to say certain things. You just can't cover everything or speak to everyone in a specific video. It's nearly impossible. But I want to make sure that the people who feel like they have been maybe left out of those conversations are able to relate to something. Listening, the idea of listening to your body is completely moot if you have no idea what you're listening for. For example, music. I am not a Taylor Swift fan. That is not my vibe. I don't like the music. However, I did watch her documentary a while back. I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of them. I don't know if there's more than one. I remember watching it and being okay, music doesn't appeal to me, but now moving forward, I kind of have a different view of it because I have a different context. I have more information about this person. Now, that doesn't mean that I like the music now. It hasn't changed that, but it's a lot easier for me to move forward with that context and have a slightly different appreciation for certain things. You know what I mean? I feel music is a really good example for that because someone who doesn't like hip hop could listen to two very, very different songs. You could listen to A$AP Rock and you could listen to Lil Uzi Vert and be rap, not into it. You know what I mean? But very different, very different, extremely different. If you know anything about hip hop, very different. Am I right? Okay, weird example. But remember, we are not truth seeking. We are comfort seeking, okay? We have preconceived notions. We have biases that we have developed over time based on our experiences, where we grew up, who we were born around, who raised us, the environment in which we grew up, hyper-specific situations that we have encountered. Essentially, when we start listening, we're probably listening for something specific. We're probably going into a scenario with an outcome in mind already. That's just how we're wired as people. So when someone says listen to your body, you can take that and be okay, I'm experiencing this thing. I'm listening, expecting this outcome without even acknowledging that you are expecting that outcome. It is something that can be happening in the back of your mind, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily denial, but denial is a very strong thing, okay? And we're all very capable of it. And if we're listening for something specific, it's preventing us from hearing what's actually going on. right? Because we're like clouded, like our ears are being clogged with like, we're missing things that might actually be popping up and telling us something because we're specifically looking for something else. You know what I mean? And then like, don't get me wrong, like one of the reasons that I'm making this video talking about this is because this has been on my mind, because I'm absolutely guilty of this, like absolutely guilty of this. But something that we have to remember is that like causation is not correlation and vice versa. And two things can be true at once. They absolutely can be true at once. I think as people in general, like we have consciousness, right, on this earth. We're the only species who has like this level of consciousness. We live with the fact that we're going to die someday. We seek answers. We don't seek truth. We seek answers. And for the most part, I think that we seek answers that comfort us. And it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative. Simply having some kind of an answer is comforting, because there's nothing that hurts more, that is more scary than the unknown. Which is one of the reasons that I thought talking about OCD a little bit today was important, because that is so, at least for me, that is the fundamental foundation of all of my OCD symptoms, is wanting to be prepared because I'm terrified of the unknown, absolutely terrified of the unknown. And I did touch on this a little bit in my consumption video. I don't know why I did this, because I filmed it out there. My consumption video, you know, that one back there, about trying to be prepared, that like I will overconsume certain things because I want to be prepared. If something were to go wrong, right? That seems to be like a massive thread throughout all of the things that I struggle with. But the idea that any answer is better than the unknown is extremely dangerous. Like it's extremely dangerous and damaging. And I don't know how else to put that in any other words. It's dangerous, it's damaging. It's bad, it's not good. If you relate to any of this, like if you have recognized that this is something that you have done in the past or currently, I highly recommend just like, if you could read something or just even like literally look up a YouTube video about how unreliable our brains are, like how unreliable our memory is. It's pretty fascinating once you understand like how our brains work. It's like that, I can't remember what it's called. There's a word for it, or a term, but it's like, you know, you learn a little bit about a thing. I think this is usually like attributed to like college sophomores, I think, where it's like, or is it sophomores? Where you learn a little bit about a thing and then you think you know everything. You think you know everything. But if you continue to if you stop there, it's bad, because you think you know everything, but you don't. If you continue to learn more about whatever it is, you get to a point where you realize how much you don't know. How little you really know, right? What is that called? Somebody will tell me in the comments. I think this has been on my mind just because it feels so prevalent in today. It feels so prevalent. And one of the best things that we can do for ourselves and the people around us, I think, is to be very aware of the fact that we are afraid of the unknown, but we don't know everything, and we can't. To acknowledge that naturally we seek comfort over truth. And again, just to go back to that consumption video, the thing that I mentioned was, what was it, beginner's mind? Someone commented and let me know what I was referring to. I believe it's called beginner's mind. The idea of interacting with things as if it's the first time. So becoming aware of the fact that you are a flawed person who does, seek patterns, seek answers, and creates patterns and creates a narrative in your mind. That's just the way our minds work. Simply being aware of that helps you to kind of dissipate that a little bit so that you are able to go through life without those preconceived notions. And it's not just going to happen immediately, which is one of the reasons that I just want to say, if you resonate with any of this, please just remember to practice self-compassion. If you resonate with this, it just means you're human, because we all do, right? I'm so guilty of these things. We all are. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. It doesn't matter how aware you are. You still have these tendencies. It's just the awareness, simply having that awareness helps you to kind of like, it's crazy to me how much work simply having the awareness even does. In all of my the work that I've been doing on myself, whether it's no CD or trauma therapy, I've learned that it's not about changing something completely or getting rid of something completely. That really feeds into this like all or nothing mentality, which is extremely damaging. It's really about just like harnessing your awareness. And once you're able to do that, I just feel like things fall into place and life just becomes a little bit more calm and anxiety levels start to come down and you're able to kind of like step back and interact with people and things and experiences without this like weight, without this heavy like weight on you that just makes you feel like, I need to get out of this, I can't breathe. That's how I felt, at least. Again, this is just something that's been on my mind, like the majority of these videos have been, and I thought I owed you better audio, which is why I'm in here. If you like me just chilling on the couch talking about this stuff, let me know if you want that. The audio is just not that great. Yeah, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but like just to reiterate the self-compassion. And you know, it doesn't mean self-love. It doesn't mean this like overt, like I love myself and I'm gonna be nice to myself. It just means being aware of like negative feelings towards yourself, because it's just not helpful. It's just not helpful. So if you have those things popping up because you resonate with this and you're starting to feel yourself judging yourself, partaking in things that are human, literally just like human, just remember to like acknowledge that and be like, oh, I'm doing that again. And that's it. Just acknowledge it. And I'm telling you, the more you can do that, the more you can sort of bolster that awareness and acknowledge those thoughts, the easier it is for that to just like, it just starts to melt away. Eventually it just starts to kind of like melt away. But you can't fight it. You just got to acknowledge it and let it melt away. And this is coming from someone who has lived my entire life feeling terrified, under attack, never feeling like I could relax in any situation, constantly reading people's emotions, reading into things. Girl. These are the things that have helped me. I'm doing a lot. And it's been incredibly helpful. And so I'm going to continue to share, even if nobody cares. Even if like 7 of you care, then it's worth it. That's how I feel. The 7 of us can just like talk about this stuff. We'll have our own little therapy sessions, all right? Okay, I'm getting sweaty. I love you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts on these videos, any of these topics, or if there's anything that's on your mind, you know, please share it in the comments down below. Cause I just, you know, I don't know. I think I mentioned this in my other video where like I have these little like conversations in my head where these thoughts pop into my head and I'm just like, I need to start putting these somewhere because I feel like so many people are resonating with them. It's also a really nice snapshot for me to be able to like watch them back and be like, oh, that's where my mind was at. You know what I mean? Anyway, thank you again to No CD for sponsoring this video. If you are someone who has dealt with OCD or if you have like an inkling that like, oh, maybe I have something like that. Ugh, I can't even tell you. Like I truly can't even express to you what a difference it's made in my life. Yeah. Anyway, the trucks are starting, so I'm gonna go. Love you. I'll see you in the next one.